Hey guys, and welcome to this new episode of Complexity of Contrast. I'm so happy that you decided to join today. I truly feel honored every time I see that we have new listeners, and yeah, I really love that we are creating this kind of community. So, thank you guys for that. And today, we're gonna dive into an episode that actually really relates to the first ever episode that I made on this podcast. And if I remember it right, the title was Choosing Your Own Path. Choosing My Path? I don't know. I think choosing your own path. Um, and I believe that the topic of today truly resonates with that. And yeah, I felt just called to record this episode right now because I have been starting this new project. And it's actually a little bit of volunteering, but at the same time, it's this self development project within a cool community. So we'll see how that goes. Maybe I'll update you. But yeah, that actually really inspired me for what I want to record today. So I just went to the park, wrote everything down that came into my mind, and we're just gonna share our personal thoughts. And yeah, okay. I do not want to talk more for the people who do not know me. I'm Anastasia. I'm the host of Complexity of Contrast, and yeah, this is a brain dump of everything that I experience, what I go through, what I find important, thoughts, questions, and especially this new season is all about critical thinking. It is questioning whether the subconscious thought patterns that we were taught are actually serving us. So maybe you relate to the following topic, and that is timeline. If you have no clue what I mean with that, I believe that we all follow our own path, as I said in the first ever episode on this channel. And because we all experience life differently and all follow this different course, it does mean that we all have a different timeline, but I believe that we often do not consider that as something positive. I believe that we were subconsciously taught to live according to a certain timeline, that we have to do this first and then that, and by the age of 25, you have to have your degree in, I don't know, whatever. I believe that so often we see our personal timeline as these milestones by what we have to achieve something. But what if that is actually not the case? Or what if that thought is not actually serving us? If you're interested in hearing more about my thoughts on that, then definitely tag along. I think our thoughts, experiences, everything we go through is so personal, but I do believe that the core of where we are being taught our personal timeline is during our upbringing. Our parents, our close community plays such a massive role in this without you actually maybe being aware of it. I needed to tell you that I actually had no clue that how my environment lived was really affecting every action I took. And if that resonates to you, I think this episode is going to give you so many different insights and maybe even a new way of thinking. So, yeah. And I mean, it's really logical that we tend to really care about what our community thinks, and that is what I talked about in the first ever episode as well. That it is incredibly hard to choose your own path. I mean, to even figure out what you want to try, what you want to experiment with, it is incredibly difficult, and especially to gather the courage to actually do the things even though they might not be accepted, or yeah, they just don't meet the expectations that maybe your close environment has set for you. And I think our timeline really closely aligns with that. Because if you decide to choose your own path, that also means that you have to figure out your own timeline. And that may be even more difficult because we are so closely comparing ourselves with everyone around us, especially because of social media. And yeah, it is just such a shame, I believe, that we tend to have this subconscious pattern of by the age of blah blah blah, I need to have achieved this, and this. And not only that, it's not actually just achieving something by the age of that, it's also expecting yourself to do everything within a certain time frame. And what I mean with that is, how often have you felt like you were behind just because you did not only do 3 years on your bachelor? No, you actually took 4 or 5 years or however long. And the same thing with your driver's license. Maybe you expect to get it in 1 year, but maybe it takes two, whatever. Like, I think we tend to focus a lot on how long am I supposed to take for this certain life goal. If that is a driver's license, a degree, a stable position at your work, whatever it can be, or maybe even building a family. I think we all have these sort of milestones and we attach an age to it. Or with age, we attach a certain feeling to it. We think that by the age of 30, we must feel more mature, more responsible, more confident, or even more sure about what we want to do in life. But I mean, I get where those thoughts are coming from, especially because if you look at your parents, and I think I'm gonna do a whole different episode on that, we see them as these kind of role models that have so much experience and wisdom and everything. But they're still human beings, and I think we tend to forget that. I think we are not aware of the fact that they do not know everything. They do not have life figured out, outplayed, I yeah, maybe we tend to see life more as a game that you have to like complete, you have to win it, you have to, I don't know. But I think that is totally not the case. I think we are continuously learning, and we all come from different backgrounds. We all have different life experiences. And maybe another person's life resonates with yours, but that doesn't mean that they have experienced it the exact same way. And because they have not, there is no possible way for you to have the same needs as them at the same time. And that is actually what brings me to this episode today. Because within this new project that I started, I am one of the youngest participants. And it is so insane that we all came there for the same reason. Nevertheless, some people are still studying, some people are in between jobs, others have finished their PhD and are now rethinking their life choices, and others are having their own business already. There are so many different persons within that community, and it's insane that even though we are so different from each other, we all crave this one thing, we all need this one thing, even though we are at completely different stages in life. We have had completely different experiences. We all have had a different timeline, but still we come together at this exact moment. And that is what I felt was truly eye-opening to me. I should not think, oh, these people are all way too old to participate, or think, oh, I'm way too young to participate. Oh, this program was not made for me, whatever. No, it is just that because you have experienced different things, that also means that maybe your needs are different from people who follow the main road, the main experience, if that is even a thing. I believe everything is so personal. And that's the whole thing about our timeline. I believe it is incredibly personal, so you cannot expect yourself to follow this main timeline, although you might think that this main timeline is suitable for you. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that you should not follow a path if you think it relates to what you want and what you need. Then, of course, go ahead. Go directly to university, get a stable job, start a family, and buy your own house. If that is truly the path you want to take and the timeline you resonate with, go ahead. But I don't want you to feel this pressure of not meeting certain expectations because you simply are too focused on how long things take. So you get, like, I think we tend to question ourselves. We tend to blame ourselves, shame ourselves in moments where we feel like we're behind, or if we do not meet the expected time it takes to finish something, to start something. I mean, there are so many people out there who are billionaires by the age of 25, you know? But at the same time, there are people at the age of 40 who just started their own business and are successful. There is no particular timeline you should follow because you should follow the timeline that meets your needs. And that is completely different for every single person. And I think it almost feels kind of strange to decide not to follow the regular timeline that is expected from you just by what you have seen so far. Let me tell you that everything you see as normal is only being normalized because that was what you were exposed to. So, for example, in a family where two people went to university and they got this job at a law firm, it is really normal to promote to their children to go to university, to get a stable job, to start a family, etc. Like, yeah, but if you maybe come from a more artistic family, they would maybe not, like, I don't want to use the word force, but they would maybe suggest you first take a couple of gap years and then experiment and do whatever you want to do. And then maybe if you still want to go to university, do that, but it's not necessary, you know? Just because their form of reality has been different, their experience and timeline has been different, so that is what they share with other people. So I want you to realize that everyone in your community actually affects how you live right now, even though you might not be aware of it. But having that awareness also means that you can set yourself free by knowing that you do not have to follow that. That it might be implemented in your way of thinking that you want to follow the same timeline, but if that simply does not resonate with you, go ahead and try to experiment, try to follow your own timeline. As I said, within this new project that I'm doing, people are looking at me like, whoa, what are you doing? Like, why are you so young and in this program? But at the same time, I know that this is the exact moment that I needed to do the program. And honestly, this project has shown me even more how much I love to connect with people that are in different life stages, because they simply have different insights than I do at this moment. And I can give them insights too. So yeah, that is why I love being in this project as well, just to share and communicate with all these people from completely different backgrounds. And it actually reminded me of one of my friends that told me when I was kind of like, oh, should I take another gap year? Yes or no? I don't know. Is this truly the timeline I want to follow? Because it's not normal. Like, all my other friends are just taking one gap year, blah, blah, blah. Right now, I know it was the right decision, if there's even a right decision. But apart from that, I feel it was a good choice for me. And I remember that she said this one thing to me, because she's a little bit older, she's in a different phase of her own life, but she told me that she and her friends simply cannot remember who took a gap year or not. Who went to study first and then took a gap year, or took 3 gap years. They simply do not even notice it anymore, because life and your timeline just blends, you know? It doesn't matter if you first took a gap year and then went to study, or if you first went to study and then took a gap year, or whatever. This is just a simple example. This can relate to so many different things. It doesn't matter when you do something. And I think this simple structure that we want to follow, we tend to follow just because it is normalized within our environment, it's so incredibly logical that we want to have achieved this and this by that age, and that we want to feel this and this by 30. Like, of course, you want to feel more mature, you want to feel more confident, but you cannot attach that to a certain age. It's just about experiencing life and taking your time. Yeah, yeah, that is actually what I want to say. And the main message that I want to give to you is timelines are personal. Timelines are so incredibly personal, and you might be further in a certain aspect of your life than others at this moment. And sometimes other people are further than you. That doesn't make you a better or a worse person. It doesn't make you more mature. It doesn't make you more confident. It is just simply your timeline. It's simply how you have experienced life. And yeah, you will find your own way. If you accept that things might take longer and some things might come even easier to you than you might have ever expected, you simply cannot control that. It is all based on every small experience you have had so far. So do not start comparing yourself that that person has finished their bachelor's within 3 years. If you need to take 5 years for that bachelor, take 5 years. And maybe they will struggle more with finding a job, and it takes them way longer to find that job than you do. You simply do not know. And why would you care if this is your personal life? Yeah, I think we think other people care way more about our lives and than is actually true. Yeah. Yeah, people actually do not look as closely at us as we think they do. Yeah. If you relate to the story, I want you to step out of that environment that you have been so comfortable in, because your reality is literally based on the people you surround yourself with. What they do, how they view life, their opinions. So, if you want to change your perspective, if you want to see what is possible in life, and want to be aware of the fact that there are so many people out there not following the main timeline that you have in your mind, I want to tell you that there are so many opportunities out there for you to get these insights, to talk to people who are at different stages, who have a different timeline, different priorities, etc. So, for me personally, traveling was the most incredible discovery I could have had. It learned me so much about the fact that every person has a different story, has different experiences, and therefore different needs. And they all follow a different timeline. Some people went to study, some people didn't. Some people already worked, some people took 5 gap years. Nobody has a similar timeline because your life is different in every single way. Even though you study with that one person and you see that they already got the job and they already have this family, maybe you do got something that they do not have. And maybe it is simply because of their previous experiences that they get to the point where they are right now. And maybe you have to work through more things or different things. And yeah, it's not about changing your timeline. I think that is what I want to tell you. It is not trying to change yourself to fit in the timeline you think you need to set for yourself. It's figuring out what you want to do and just accepting the fact that it might take longer than you expect, or that you will achieve different things by a different age. It's about the acceptance part. It is just about being okay with not being on the main timeline. Accepting that the people around you that you thought were similar to you might have different lives, different experiences, and therefore different timelines. There's no particular order that you should live life in. So just go with what feels best for you, because your needs will always be different than a stranger sitting next to you, or that classmate, or your colleague. And it's okay to accept that. So, yeah. As I said, traveling, it changed so much for me. And I feel so incredibly grateful that I got the opportunity to see people from different nationalities and different backgrounds, different upbringings, what they are doing with their lives and what their timeline is. But I totally get it if you do not get the opportunity to travel abroad. Believe me that there are so many different opportunities, even within your own city, to get to know people with different upbringings, values, different timelines, within different stages in their lives. And I do want to encourage you to just do your research, because honestly, I always felt that I needed to go abroad, that if I truly wanted to experience how people live very differently from the way I do, I need to go abroad. That is not true. Let me tell you, that is simply not true. Right now that I am exposed to the people within the community of the project, I realize that even within my own city, people have followed different timelines, have had different forms of upbringing and values, and that is what created their path and their order of living. And I truly appreciate that. But you do need to do your research if you're interested in this. But let me tell you that within every place you go, even if it's the smallest place where you think nothing ever happens here, there is a community. There is a chance for you to get to know different people. So, yeah, I think it's all about openness and accepting, and that might be the hardest thing that we ever have to do in life. Accepting the way things are. So, yeah. Yeah, I think that it was actually it. Thank you a lot for listening. Yeah, definitely let me know if you enjoyed this episode. Leave a review if you feel called to do that. So, yeah, hopefully we can make this community even bigger than it already is. So, thank you guys a lot for listening, and yeah, hopefully see you next time. Bye bye.